This is too funny, and I cannot believe I overlooked this shit. And quiet as it's kept, even all of the hypergamous camp women overlook this shit. And this is the ultimate counter to these anti-femininity women, right? So I sent the For Harriet video to a black woman that's a close female friend of mine, and she said that she only watched part of the video. So she was like, well, explain to me, because we were talking, and she was like, well, explain it to me. So I started breaking it down, like the whole problem, what's going on. I don't really, I don't know what the exact origins of all this shit is, but I was breaking it down same way I broke down in the video. Women who don't win in patriarchy and all that stuff, and trying to include all these other groups and all that stuff, right? And when we got to the whole beauty thing, and I brought up the point that For Harriet said, where she said that she used to be a heel wearing woman, and even when I heard that part of the video, I was like, why would you stop doing that part? Like, why would you stop dolling yourself up? Now, arguably, it would be said, well, you're still not going to win. So, like, I'm like, okay, so you're just going to look a hot mess, or you're just not even going to try anymore. I'm like, ugh, like, I don't know why women do that, relationships that I've fallen out of or whatever, or times that I've been down. I go in the gym and I go harder in the gym, and I come out like I'm Goku popping out the hyperbolic time chamber. You know what I'm saying? But women, on the other hand, they just like, they shit hits them and they're like, I'm just gonna let just this shit fall apart. And the crazy thing is, it's like, even still, I don't need to compare For Harriet to any other woman. I, as a heteronormative cisgendered black man, would take the feminine For Harriet over what For Harriet is on right now, right? And so, I was just, I was playing devil's advocate, listening to my friend respond, right? I was playing devil's advocate, about, how the other, these anti-feminine women, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. It starts with, we must eliminate Eurocentric beauty standards. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, because I recognize how that shit affects black men, and the colorism and the featureism and the hair texturism and all that shit. I'm like, yeah, right? Yeah, sister. And then next thing you know, they're like, and heels are Eurocentric, and shaving your legs is Eurocentric, and wearing makeup is Eurocentric. They didn't have a Mac or Sephora in ancient Africa, right? And so the next thing you're down to, umfufu and African bush bitches, right? And so, I was just being an asshole when I brought up the point, because she was like, okay, she's doing too much. And I was like, well, I'm saying, generally speaking, not just her, but I'm like, this is the type of shit that these women say, like, it's like, you start off with, we must challenge Eurocentric ideas of beauty, which is the idea that, the white woman is the only archetype for, being a feminine, beautiful woman. And the next thing you know, they start throwing out shit that we like, and I was just, being an asshole, and not being an asshole, but I was just, again, playing devil's advocate and shit like that. And she threw up some counter, and I was like, no, that didn't exist in ancient Africa. So therefore, all black women, looked like, it was freaking 10,000 BC. Right. And that's basic. I'm like, so she's like, so that's basically, she's trying to bring that into, modern times, like that, so we got to go all the way back that far in order for it to have, standards that black women can subscribe to. And I was like, yeah. And then she said the most hilarious shit ever. She was like, nah, fuck that. She was like, if black women gotta go all the way that far back in the time machine, she was like, well, white bitches gotta come too. And I was killing myself because she was like, no, we gotta go back to the Middle Ages. White bitches gotta go back to the Middle Ages. And I was dying. I was like, oh, and Viking bitches too. Yep, Viking bitches too, with the freaking Braveheart, black colored teeth and looking like they just had a bout of the bubonic plague. She's like, nah, if black women gotta go back to ancient Africa and being bush bitches, she was like, white women gotta go back too. And I was killing myself because I was like, you know what? I never thought about that shit. Like, this is where how we let people get away with bullshit. You know what I mean? Where you'll get black women, it's Eurocentric, right? And again, I'm not, when I say black women, I'm talking about these black women that come with this bullshit that even are essentially the enemies of other black women, feminine black women. So these women will come through and they'll be like, yes, and it has to be ancient Africa and everything. And so let me get this right. So in order to be a true black woman that's subscribing to African standards of beauty, we got to take the black woman and we got to go in the time machine and go, all the way back to the year, 1081 AD, right? But the white bitches, they get to stay in the 21st century with all of their makeup and all that shit. It's like when you go back and you watch these movies, like, the freaking 1960s movies where they go, they do these movies in ancient times and shit like that. Or like, a perfectly good example is, Conan the Barbarian, or what's another movie? Planet of the Apes, where Charleston Heston, he's going and riding on the horse till he sees the Statue of Liberty, and he's got the white chick with him on the back of his horse, and she's in a fur skin bikini. You know what I'm saying? They always had that. She noticed if you go and you look at all the images of the white women from the 60s, they got these fur skin bikinis and shit. They're all in shape. They all got smooth skin. You know what I mean? These are 20, they do have a bad habit of doing that in movies. They make you think that white bitches from ancient times, look just the same way that they are in the 21st century, except, they had fur skin bikinis and shit like that, right? And I'm saying, so they get to maintain their 21st century looks. And then, I guess the makeup is just like tattooed to their face, and the eyeshadow and eyeliner is just tattooed to their face, right? But then when we go to black women, it's like, no, y'all gotta look like African bush bitches, like fufu and shit. Okay, that's what black women are supposed to look like. So I'm like, so black women are supposed to look tore up from the floor up, and that's Afrocentric. But white women get to maintain 21st century European beauty standards. And then not only that, what's so fucked up about it is like what she said, what this black woman said really highlights. Just was so fucked up about this line of thinking. It's like, okay, she just said point blank. She was like, oh, well, if we're going to get in a time machine for black women and black women got to go back to ancient African beauty standards, well, I'm going to need the white bitches to go back to ancient European beauty standards too. And I was like, that shit is an excellent point. Because let's face it, colorist or not colorist, man, black men or anybody else are not fantasizing about the way that white women actually looked in 1081 AD. They're not. Look, with the fucking, fucked up teeth and shit, looking like that woman in Willow. You know what I'm saying? Boo, boo. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like, fuck that. Fuck that. But it's like white, it's like when these women say, we got to go back to ancient Africa because that's Eurocentric, it's as if they're suggesting that there was never a time where white women looked tore up from the floor up, right? There was never a time, the Eurocentric standards, they make it seem like what exists today is, that's Eurocentric standards. Yes, we know that there's Europeans are the dominant group in society and they define everything and whatnot. And we understand hair texturism, featureism, and colorism and whatnot. But in terms of claiming that makeup and heels and shaving your legs is all, these Eurocentric manifestations, like she just said point blank, she was like, no, that's modern. That's just modern shit. This whole idea, black women got to go back in a time machine, but white women don't have to go back in a time machine. Again, who wants to get with a bitch looking like them bitches in the movie Braveheart with William Wallace and shit like that with bad teeth? Because freaking Europeans didn't brush their teeth. Hell, Native Americans were the ones that bathed every day. Europeans didn't bathe every day. So could you imagine the stench? Could you imagine the stench walking through one of them Lord of the Ring Hobbit looking ass villages with straw freaking huts and roofs and shit like that, and just the stench of fucking white women walking around? Could you imagine that shit? But it's like when you look at these sort of arguments, it really does suggest or infer, and nobody really thinks about it. It really does suggest like white women never had a time where they looked tore up from the floor up. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, a modern black man today is not going to be interested in an ancient African woman. They're not. No more than a white man of today is going to be interested in a medieval bitch. You know what I'm saying? Hear ye, wench. No, they're not going to be interested in that shit. So again, it's so funny. It's like, she was just like, nah, if black women got to get in a time machine, white bitches is coming too. And I was like, oh, there you go. There you go. I'm like, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. I was like, I ain't even think about that. That is a brilliant fucking argument. You know what I mean? Because it's just the bullshit. And again, to suggest like today's Eurocentric standards didn't evolve to what they are. You get what I'm saying? Like, it could be argued, white people, they founded America and, they were the first ones to set this up and set that up. And, black people had no impact on that, which we already know was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Black people have already shifted, the culture of beauty in America to some degree. Nobody can say that they're not. It has. That's just the reality. But I just had to make this video because I thought that was a brilliant fucking comeback to that bullshit of that's Eurocentric. In ancient Africa, we didn't do X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 blah. Because really what it was designed to do is for all the women who don't want to doll themselves up, they want to point to ancient Africa because they can say, well, obviously ancient African women were not dolling themselves up to, today's, westernized standards. And they're correct. But then not only that, it also suggests like as though ancient African women didn't do anything to doll themselves up. No sort of, any sort of aesthetic. Now, I'm not into rings around the neck and ears and, plates and lip and shit like that, or, certain face paint, or in some tribes where they basically scar up the face, in hopes that the person gets keloid scars, which is, basically collagenization, right? And, I'm not into that. Some tribes would even file the teeth down to make the teeth look like, real, like freaking shark's teeth. That shit is real fucking scary. I think that more the men did that more than the women. But I'm just saying, nah. If black women got to get in a time machine in order to be anti-Eurocentric, white women got to fucking come too. I mean, plain and simple. White women got to fucking come too. We're not going to sit there and compare ancient African beauty standards or ancient African women while white women get to preserve and maintain 21st century beauty standards and then go, okay, we're going to compare. And if you prefer the white women that's maintaining a 21st century standard, in the eyes of a 21st century black man compared to a freaking, ninth century, or 11th century black woman, then you're self-hating. How dare you not like this 11th century black woman? I don't like a fucking 11th century white woman. Fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know what I mean? It's real slick. It's like a sleight of hand type of thing. And I can't believe I didn't catch it. I'm mad at myself for not catching it. You know what I'm saying? But this sister, she caught that shit. She said, nah, fuck that. We got to go back in time, and white bitches got to come too. We gonna talk about them and them dirty ass teeth, and that they had during the bubonic plague and shit. Like, we gonna talk about that shit. We gonna talk about them sickly, a hunchback of Notre Dame looking ass white bitches from the Middle Ages. No, we gonna talk about that shit. We're not just gonna sit there and be like, oh, look at how terrible the black women looked in ancient Africa and say that should be the standard, and then compare it to white women in the 21st century, looking like they just, came off the cover of some fucking Vogue magazine. I was like, oh, you go. Call that shit the fuck out, because you got a damn good point. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. That's my video. SWP out.